Hi, so I'm back again with some forested grass. If you've not seen my leaf tutorial, I'm going to put that link up here somewhere once this is uploaded. This time I'm going to go through, like I said, the grass, but we're going to split it up into a few different sections. So the first part is I'm going to go through the multifloor object and how to sort of direct the grass in a way we like rather than just choosing something from the library and going with that. After that, I'm going to break down the grass material and just how to get as much variation into that as well. We're using Octane random color nodes, a couple of vertex maps and scripts as well to help us with that. And after that, I'm going to do a quick little bit at the end on how we can use Quixel Megascans textures with forested grass as well, just because there's a little bit more detail in them sometimes if you're doing like close-up stuff, things like that. It's really useful to have those maps from Quixel because they're really great. So yeah, let's start. So I'm going to go through some information I found out from the forested documentation, which I'm going to put a link to in the description. But for now, let's just go ahead and drop in a Multifloor and go over to the grass tab. So we're just going to go and break down all these settings one by one, so we kind of work out what each one does and how it affects our grass over here. So let's start with the first one, which is grass node count. So I bring this up to 4 and then bring the grass patch radius out. We can see we now have 4 nodes of grass in our multiflora. And the grass per node count underneath that one, that just affects how many grass blades we have in each of those nodes. So if we go up to 100, we're going to have 100 grass blades in each node. Or if we come down to 1, you see now we only have 1. So I'm going to put a value of maybe 50 nodes, 3 blades each. And let's come down and put 2 in there. So grass grow. This affects the growing of the grass. Obviously, we're not going to dig into this too much because it's more of a animation thing than a stills thing. What we're going to do now, we're going to come zoom in. We're going to look at the grass segments and grass half sides. So grass segments is just how many subdivisions our grass has across its height. So by default, it's 10. So if we bring that up to say, let's bring it up to 25, you see we get a little more detail now in each blade. Grass half sides is the same thing, but rather than across its height, it just means across its width. So the default again is 1, so let's bring that up to 3, because we're going to need some more subdivisions when we get into some of these other settings down here. Now the grass patch radius, went over that briefly at the start, but that's just the radius of your entire patch of grass. You can make it wider or smaller. Just leave that at 2. Now the grass size, it's just the size of the grass. You can sort of make it bigger and smaller. This will affect the width and the length of the grass. So you can leave that at 1. The default will be fine. Grass length. This just affects the length of the grass. It doesn't make the width any bigger. So let's just value maybe 45 in there. Grass node length ratio. To demonstrate this, I'm going to make our patch radius a little bit bigger. And just zoom out. And let's add a couple more blades of grass into each node as well. Now you'll see if I bring up the node length ratio, this is true for all the ratio settings we're going to be going into below this, but if we bring this up, you'll see that the nodes around the outside of our patch of grass are now smaller, and this is true as well if you bring it down, they'll just get bigger. So let's have a little bit of that. Let's put maybe 0.6. The grass per node length ratio, this will just affect the grass blades per node. So if we bring this up, you can see the grass blades on the outside of each node have now got smaller. So let's have a little bit of that as well. Let's maybe 0.3. Randomize grass length. This is going to randomize the length of the grass. It can go a bit crazy if you push it too much. So let's just maybe do a value of 0.8. Grass width is the width of the grass. You can make it fatter and thinner if you want to do that. 1 will be fine. Grass node offset. I'm just going to frame up at the top and grab one of these nodes so we can see this. Now if we bring this node offset down to 0, you can see each blade of grass is now spawning from 1 point in the node. But if we bring the node offset up, it kind of offsets them from each other. So that's good to get a bit more randomization. So let's put a value of maybe 5 in there. Grass tropism. I'm just going to lower our count down to 3 and the patch radius to 2 as well if we get into that. Grass tropism, this will give you like a windswept look for the grass. Just come over here to get a better angle. You can see it kind of blows it over in one direction. And the tropism variance will just vary that between each blade. And the tropism direction, if you make our patch radius a little bit bigger. If we up the tropism direction, this will just change the direction in which each node is sort of being blown in. So we don't want that too much, maybe 1, maybe 0.5. Let's not have too much tropism either, maybe put that at 10. For the variance, maybe just 0.1, not too much of that. Patch radius back down to 2 again. So where are we now? Right, grass bend. To demonstrate this, I'm just going to drop the node count down to 1 and the per node count down to 1. So we've got one blade of grass. I'm going to drop the patch radius down to 0 as well. Tropism to 0. Bend ratio to 0. And we're also going to take out all the turbulence as well. So now we've just got one blade of grass, which can demonstrate all these bend values quite clearly. So if we start with the grass bend, this means we've got a bend of 170 degrees from the start to the end of the grass. If we come down here to bend start and bend end, if we increase this start value to 0.5, you see now half the blade of grass is not being bent at all. And then from 50% to 100%, it's getting this bend of 170 degrees. So you can, with this value, you can control where the bend starts on your blade of grass. So let's maybe just put 0.1 in there. So it's not bending straight from the tip, from the start, sorry. Grass bend end is the opposite. This can just push the bend down your blade of grass. So if we put in a value of 0.3, now from 0 to 10% of the grass, we've got no bending. And then from 10% to 30%, we have a bend of 170. And then from 30% to 100%, it's just completely straight again. So let's just do a value of maybe 0.9 in that one. To demonstrate the bend ratio, I'm just going to go ahead and up our node count again, up our blade count, sort of the patch radius as well. So grass bend ratio, if we up this, just like the other ratios, the grass around the outside of the patch now is getting bent more than the grass on the inside. So this is a good way to add some variation back in again. So let's maybe have a bend ratio of, I don't know, this maybe 0.8. Let's go through the grass fold and the fold start. I'm gonna just go and drop our node count down to 1 and 1 again, and the radius down to 0. So if we come zoom in at the bottom of this grass now, so now we've got a grass fold of 90. So if we bring this back down to 0, see our grass blade is now completely flat from start to finish. It's not being folded at all. So if we come zoom back in and then maybe put in a value of 180. See, now it's been folded all around onto itself, so it kind of creates a nice kind of a circular starting point for the grass. I think we're going to keep it like that. And let's just sort of zoom out a bit. And then the fold start and fold end is very similar to the bend start and bend end that we've just been over. It just means you can push the fold up your blade of grass if you need to do that. So you can kind of dictate where you want the folding to start and the folding to end. So maybe put in 0.1, and yeah, the same for the grass fold end. If you bring that down, that just, it just brings the end of the fold further down the blade of grass. So just maybe put 0.9 in there. To demonstrate the grass reverse fold, I'm just going to up our node count again to 50, and that's a 3, and then the patch radius up to 2. So let's try and find a good blade of grass to demonstrate this on. This one here. So we've got a value of 180 down here, which we dictated with our grass fold here. So if we up the grass reverse fold to 2, we see we're getting a value of 180 here, and the grass is bending round onto itself. But then as we move up the blade of grass, it kind of reverses out, so we get this concave fold up here. And that's the same if we bring it down. If we bring it down to -2, we see we get, it kind of bulges back out onto itself, which gives it a little bit more volume. So we're going to leave that at maybe -1.5. Now grass turbulence, I just grab the tropism back in again. Let's maybe do a value of 10. Now grass turbulence, this will just turbulence the grass. So if you bring that up, it kind of just pushes like a noise through it and kind of pushes it in all different directions. So let's maybe do just 0.35. The turbulence phase, this is just basically like a seed value for the turbulence. That's all that is. Turbulence scale, if we bring this down, you'll see our grass gets a lot more sort of knotted up and detailed, which is just scaling the noise that's being put through this grass. If we bring that up, the turbulence will obviously affect it less because the noise is getting bigger. So it's just being 175 in there. Looking good. Flatten grass, this will just flatten the grass down. If you want to create some like sort of trodden on grass, this value will help you do that. Let's just do that a little bit, maybe 0.1. To the grass orientation, the grass swivel, we're going to make our patch radius a little bit bigger to demonstrate this. And let's go ahead and zoom up. The grass swivel, this will swivel kind of each node around itself. So if you're not happy with any of the orientation at all, you can kind of change that in here. And the grass blade swivel will just swivel each blade around rather than each node around. Okay, let's go and drop our patch radius back down again. And drop that down to 2. There we go. Let's frame back up again. Now the grass spread, I'm going to drop the spread ratio down to 0 at the moment. And then let's drop the spread down to 0 as well. So grass spread will just, if you up this value, it will spread the grass blades away from each other. And similar to the other ratio values, other ratio settings that we've been looking at up here, if we bring the grass spread ratio up, it just means these blades of grass on the outside are being spread more than the grass blades on the inside. So let's just do maybe 0.9 in there. And the grass spread variation will just vary that across each blade. So let's maybe have a little bit of that, maybe 20. Let's zoom in, do the grass local spin. Come to the last few settings here. Our local spin will just spin the grass locally around its axis. If you need to do that, I think sort of 0 will be fine. And the patch rotation, if I just come and bring it up here, patch rotation will just rotate the entire patch round on itself. I'm going to leave the materials for now because we're going to come back to those in a sec. The grass profile multiplier, if we bring this down to 0, the grass is now completely ignoring this grass profile spline we have down here. And if you bring it up to 1, then we can just change it by this spline of how the grass looks. But let's just leave all that at default. Alright, it's going to come back up, make sure we're all good. Those are fine. Cool. Okay, so that's all the settings in the multifloor grass done. So now we've got our patch of grass that we can move on to texturing. So I'm going to take a quick break and then I'm going to come back with that. So for the materials, let's just go and drop in another multifloor quickly. Go to multifloor library and just drop in a long grass just so we get our materials down there at the bottom. Then we can delete that long grass out again. And then just grab MF grass and just drop it over there. And then we can go function and remove unused. So let's come back into the multifloor and the grass settings. Now if we come down here under grass UVs, we see over grass material count. If we put that up to 2, and then come over here to our material selections, we can see we have grass polygon selection 1 name is grass 1, and grass polygon selection 2 name is grass 2. So if we now come over to our texture tag, and in the selection type grass 1, we see now half our grass no longer has a texture. So then let's duplicate this material at the bottom out, just double click that, and then open it, and I'm just going to select something that looks a bit different, maybe grass 18. And then let's duplicate its texture tag, drag and drop that material over. And instead of grass 1 on here, we're going to now type grass 2. And so you have 2 different materials just in this one multifloor object. And we can change the mix between those if we come back down to grass and then grass material bias. If we bring this all the way over, it's going to take more of grass 2, and if we bring it all the way up, it's going to take more of grass 1. So let's just maybe do 0.4 in there. Cool. So that's how you can have multiple materials on just one multi-floor object. This actually goes the same for trees. So let's quickly look at that as well. I'm going to drop in the forest a tree. And let's just pick something random from the library. Go tree library. Let's maybe pick something like a live oak. Let's come over to tree parameters. Let's set up the viewport levels to 5 as well. Zoom back out again. I'm just going to take our display to just constant shading. So if we come over to material selections in the tree, we can see we have leaves polygon selection 1 name is leaf 1, leaves polygon selection 2 name is leaf 2, and leaf polygon selection 3 name is leaf 3. So if we come into our leaves here in the tree and then come all the way down to the bottom, and we should find, let's put it up here. Here we go. Under leaf distribution, we have material count. So let's up that to 3. Okay, just give it a sec to update. And then I'm just going to create 3 materials, just a red one and a red, green, and blue one, just so we can kind of differentiate between them quite easily. So red one, green one, and a blue one. So then if I come over to our tree and just grab leaf 1, I'm going to drop the red material over the top of that. Let's duplicate that texture tag out. And let's drop the green one over the top of that. Let's type its selection from leaf 1 to leaf 2. And let's duplicate that out again. And let's grab the blue one and drop that over that. And change that from leaf 2 to leaf 3. So now you see we've got 3 different materials on this tree. So you can go ahead and build out sort of 3 different variations of just one leaf material with slightly different colors. And then you can drop all those and just have all 3 sort of different leaves all kind of mixed in with each other. And we can actually randomize that a little bit more if you come back over to the tree. And then just by material count, we have something called randomized materials. So if we click that, you see the materials get randomized a little more now. If I uncheck that again, you can see the difference. So you see at the moment we kind of had all the red leaves are at the bottom and then green leaves are kind of around the middle and then the blue leaves are at the top. But if we just randomize that again, you see it kind of mixes between them. We kind of get some red ones near the top, we get some green ones throughout here with the blue, and it just makes it a little bit more random basically, which is going to be better in terms of variation for stuff. So I'm going to delete the tree out now. Let's just go ahead and focus on our grass again. Come back down here. You can just go function and remove unused materials. So let's just grab both of these and convert them to Octane materials. We're going to get our live viewer going. Let's change that from direct lighting to path tracing. Just hit the Octane button. We're going to drop in a daylight and drop in a floor. Let's grab the daylight, kind of just rotate it up a bit. Something like that. So yeah, let's grab these 2 materials and just go materials and convert materials. I'm just going to lock this as well and scale it down a bit. There we go. Cool. So let's not worry about our second material for now. We're gonna we will just build out one grass material. Let's actually remove our unused ones. We're just going to build out one grass material and then we'll duplicate that across and adjust it slightly for our second one. So let's just go and delete that texture tag, come into the multifloor and then grass, and we're going to drop that back down to 1 again. Cool. Okay, that's all good. Let's kind of come around here, something like that. So we can delete that out as well. So that's MF grass. Let's just go and rename that to MF grass 1. Then we're going to open that in the node editor. Let's go materials, Octane node editor. I've got mine docked up here. So you can see the conversion is just pipe that image texture straight into the diffuse. So the first thing we want to do is color correct it. To select the color correct, I'm going to bring the hue over slightly. Saturation down. Bring the gamma to 1.1. Let's make it look a little bit more realistic. Let's do a -1, minus 0.1, sorry. Cool, that's good. Let's go and pipe that into our bump as well. So we're going to go color correct. Bring that down, take the saturation out. Put it into the bump. Or you can put it into our diffuse to see what we're doing first actually. So you can see that's desaturating the image and creating a black and white map for us, which we can just put straight into the bump. Like so, and then color correct into the diffuse. Let's go ahead and do some transmission as well, so we get some light passing through the grass. So again, let's bring a color correct in, plug that into the transmission. And we're going to take this color correct, put it into the texture slot. If we bring the gamma down, it's going to give us more transmission, but it's going to get kind of white. So we don't want to do that too much. Let's do maybe 0.9. And I'm going to shift the hue over slightly to make it a little more yellow. So let's go and multiply. Put that in there. And let's go a float. Drop that on the texture 2 dot. I'll connect that up. So this float value now controls how much transmission we have. You see if we bring that all the way up, we're going to get loads. And if we bring it down, we can kind of control it. We can get rid of a little bit of it as well. Let's go and drop in our render settings as well. Just so we have the different tabs down here. So I'm just going to go change that to Octane renderer. Render passes, going to enable those. And we're going to go down to beauty passes, enable transmission and SSS. So now we can just select transmission over here and we can clearly see what that transmission is doing. So let's select the float. If we bring that down to 0, we're going to get none, or bring it up to 4, we're going to get loads. So let's just bring it down slightly actually. Let's do 0.75. Cool, great. So now we've got light passing through the grass. We can get some subsurface going as well. So let's go over to the medium tab, adding a scattering medium. I'll bring that down here. So add in two RGB spectrums. First one into absorption. Second one into scattering. And select the first one to get kind of a greeny yellow color. Like that. Let's make it a little bit darker. Now for the second one, let's get like a kind of quite a bright yellow. Something like that. So let's select SSS, see if we're all good. Yep. So let's zoom back out. So that's our diffuse material built. So let's duplicate that one out. Select it, copy it to the name. I'm going to call this grass 1 glossy. Make sure you got it selected. Then we're going to go into the node editor. We can go ahead and delete out the transmission and the medium. I need those. Let's just drag and drop the glossy over the top as well, just to make sure we're looking at it in our live viewer here. Go back to the node editor again. And we're going to change it from, select the basic tab, we're going to change the material type from diffuse to glossy. And then for the bump, I think we should bring the bump down slightly. So let's put in a multiply, grab a float, drop that on texture 2. 0.5 would be fine, just for halving that bump. And let's also put some, let's get some roughness going as well. So let's drop that into the roughness 2. Grab a multiply again. Grab a float again, drop that on texture 2. And then we're going to maybe times that by 2. So now we've got some glossy highlights going as well. Maybe that was a little much. Let's move 1.5. So now we've got our grass diffuse and the grass glossy. So let's go ahead and mix those together. Let's create a new Octane mix. We're just going to rename this grass 1 mix. There we go. Mixed materials. We're going to grab the diffuse and the glossy. And then let's grab that mix. Put that over the top. Cool. So that's the grass 1 material built. So let's go ahead and build the second one out. We're going to keep this nice and organized. Let's drop this in a new layer called grass 1. Let's select all these. Let's drag and drop them in there. For this one, I'm going to call it grass 2. Select all the materials, duplicate them out, just holding control, and then I'm going to drag and drop them into grass 2. So let's go through and rename them. So I go over to the basic tab, I'm going to change that from grass 1 to grass 2 glossy. And with grass 2 in there, it's going to be our grass 2 mix. So select mix materials, and then we're going to put grass 2 in there, and the grass 2 glossy in there. And we can go over to our multifloor, come over to grass, up the material count to 2 again. Actually, we can leave it at 1 for now while we actually build our material. Oh no, 2 will be fine. I think we can kind of judge the difference between them then, because we've got some variation. So let's duplicate this one out. Drop grass 2 over, change its selection from grass 1 to grass 2. So let's go and zoom in a bit. So let's work on a diffuse, and then we can copy any color corrections we do over to the glossy. So let's drag the diffuse, put that over our grass 2 selection here. So then select diffuse, I'm going to open it in the node editor. I'm just going to select this first color correct. And for this one, let's maybe try and make it look a little bit dead. So let's maybe try and get a brown kind of color going. Take a little bit of the saturation out. And maybe let's bring the gamma slightly down. 1.15. Yeah, 0.3 is good in there. Saturation 0.8, that's good. So now select that color correct. I'm going to copy it. Come over to the glossy, going to paste that in. Hook it up to the diffuse. And to this color correct down here. And I'm going to hook the image texture into there, and we can delete our old color correct. So now we can grab the grass 2 mix material, drop that over. So then we should still have our transmission, SSS working, and we've got the glossy highlights as well. Let's make sure we've just got enough variation. Yeah, that's probably fine. So the next step, we're going to give each blade of grass a different value using a Python script I found. There'll be a link to that in the description. Basically what this script does is it will give a random vertex color to the polygon groups in an object. So unfortunately to do this, we do need to make it editable. So for animation, if you want like wind and stuff, it's not really going to work. But for doing stills, it's perfectly fine. We're just going to keep a backup copy. So let's control drag to get a duplicate of that. We're going to select it and then press C. We can delete the materials off the null. You see we get this polygon object now. So let's name that grass 1. And we get these selection tags. So we've got grass 2 selection, grass 1 selection, and our materials. So we've got this selection here. It's just grabbing these polygon selections. So what we want to do is come over to grass 2. We're going to come over to polygon selection and go select polygons. With our mouse in the viewport, we're going to press U and then P to split that out. And then also going to press delete to get rid of those. So now we have 2 separate objects. So grass 1 is going to be our grass 1. We slide that over. And grass 2 is grass 2. So let's go ahead and rename this one to grass 2. So from grass 1, we're not going to need our grass 2 selection, so we can delete that. Not going to need our grass 2 material either. And for grass 2, we don't need the grass 1 material. I don't need the grass 1 selection either. So let's go ahead and just drop this back under here and reset the PSR. So for now, I'm going to just turn off grass 2. Let's just go ahead and work with grass 1. So what we're going to do now, once you've installed the script, you're going to find it up here. You're going to script, user script, and then random vertex color. So click that. You can see now each polygon group in this object, if we come over to the fill selection, you see each blade of grass is actually its own group inside this polygon. So what the script has done is just looked at all the different polygons which are next to each other and then given them all a vertex color. So what we can do, we can use this information inside of Octane. So for now, we're going to work with our Grass 1 diffuse. So come over here to the materials. We're going to grab the Grass 1 diffuse, drag and drop that over the top of the mix. Make sure you still got it selected. I'm going to open it in the node editor. So we're going to bring this image texture and the color correction over. I'm going to grab the vertex map from down here. And in the vertex map, we're going to drag and drop that vertex color. Let's go ahead and rename this vertex color Grass 1. And let's disconnect the bump, transmission and the medium for now. And let's go ahead and pipe this vertex map straight into the diffuse. So you can see we've now got all our vertex colors working inside of Octane. Next thing to do, we're going to go ahead and make a black and white map out of this. So let's grab a color correction and then going to drop it on. And grab the saturation, bring that down to 0. Then we're going to grab a gradient. And I'm going to grab a mix as well. So next, I'm just going to, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to grab 2 RGB spectrums, which are going to represent our materials. So RGB spectrum is going to be red. This will be material 1. And we're going to make the second one blue. So I'm going to put that into texture 1 and that into texture 2. You see, if we come up to our gradient now, if I bring this black knot over, we're going to get more of texture 1, which is our red RGB spectrum at the moment. And if I bring the black knot over and the white one up, we're going to get more of texture 2, which is our blue at the moment. So this gradient node is kind of acting like the float mix in a mixed material, but it's all just inside one texture. So let's bring that back over to the default. We can delete out the RGB spectrums now. We're going to grab this color correct, put that into texture 1. Let's go ahead and move this all over. Move that all over. And we're going to grab another color correct. Drop that in texture 2. And with the gradient selected, let's bring the white knot all the way up so we can just focus on what we're doing with texture 2 down here. And this color correct is going to go into that texture. So this one, let's maybe try and get a kind of yellowish color going. It's still looking a little bit green. Saturation down slightly. Yeah, something like that will work fine. So come up to the gradient, let's bring the white knot over. Then we can kind of control the mix between here just by shuffling these around. There you go, maybe something like that is good. Now we've got a few yellow blades, got a few green blades, and we've got a nice mix between those values as well. So we can take all this information. We're going to plug it straight into what's going to be our bump. Let's also plug it into the transmission down here. Put that into the transmission. And let's reconnect up the scattering medium. So what we can also do with the black and white map we've created from the vertex color node here, we can plug that into the transmission brightness. So let's grab this color correct, put it into the brightness. Let's select transmission down here so we can see what we're doing. Let's grab a gradient node again and drop that on there. And bring that down, tidy it out slightly. So again, similar to what we were doing up here with the gradient node, if we bring this black knot over, you'll see it starts to pop off the transmission between each blade, so we can control the amount of sort of subsurface and transmission between each blade by just shuffling all these values around. So let's bring the black up and then bring the white up. That's going to give us more. So let's maybe crush it down a bit. Maybe not have completely back, maybe 30. So you see we're getting a little bit of variation in the transmission as well now, and that also pipes through into the subsurface too. So let's bring it back out. Tidy all this up a little bit. There you go, that'll do. Cool, so let's grab our grab everything from here. So the vertex map, color correct, gradient, this color correct, and the mix. We don't need this gradient down here because we're just copying this over to the glossy. So let's select all those again. There you go, copy. Come over to the glossy. Now hit paste. And then we need to select our vertex map. We just need to drop that back in again because Octane forgets that it's there. I'm going to put this into the diffuse. Grab all this. This color correct is going into texture 1. It's also going into this texture here. And then all this is coming down into our bump and roughness. Great, so that's all working. Let's grab the mix, put that over the top. So we've still got transmission, still got SS, and we've got our glossy and diffuse all mixed together. So that's grass 1 done. So let's hide grass 1. I'm going to do grass 2. So again, just make sure the object is selected. I'm going to go up to scripts, user script, random vertex color. And then we can grab everything from grass 1. But first, let's just select grass 2. I'm going to drop the diffuse on again, just so we can just work on that one first before moving on to the other one. And let's come over to grass 1 again. Set the grass 1 diffuse. If we can just select this whole setup here with the vertex map, color correct, and the mix and the gradient. So let's copy those 4. Come over to grass 2, select the grass 2 diffuse. I'm going to paste that in. Select this vertex map node again, and then grab this vertex color here. So let's call this vertex color grass 2. Let's drag and drop that into the slot here. Then we're going to disconnect our bump, transmission, and medium again. Grab the image texture and that color correct. We're going to shift it over a bit. I'm going to pipe that into texture 1. This mix text into the diffuse. And again, let's crush this gradient up just so we can focus on our second material. Have another color correct, put it into texture 2. This color correct goes into its texture. And then here, let's maybe up the gamma slightly. Bring the saturation down. Try and make it maybe a little more brown. Bring the saturation down some more. Bring the gamma down a bit. Right, something like that. Let's come back up to our gradient again. Bring the white over. And bring the black over. So that's kind of, that's our material 1. So let's store in a buffer of that. And then bring the white over. That's material 2. Just see if we've got enough variation there. I think that's probably going to be fine. So let's take off the enable AB. Go ahead and maybe mix these into each other. Something like that. Yeah, something like that's probably good. There we go. So once again, let's grab all this information, slide it over, we can bring it down, put that back into the bump. Let's also bring it into the transmission. Put that in transmission, and then we can just reconnect our medium again. So once again, let's grab another gradient. We're going to put that into the brightness. Then we're going to select our color correction up here. We're going to bring that down into its input. And come over to transmission, and we can control how much each blade of grass gets in here again. So let's maybe put a value of 30 in here. Maybe bring the white up a bit. That down a bit, something like that. So that's our diffuse built for grass 2. So let's select everything up here again. Vertex map, color correct, gradient. This color correct and the mix. I'm going to copy those. I'm going to come over to the glossy, going to paste them in. And we need to drop our vertex color back in here. In the vertex node, Let's bring it all over. And apply that into the diffuse. Let's bring this image texture and color correct over. I'm going to put that into the texture there. I'm also going to put it into texture 1 in the mix. Now we can pipe all this mix information down into what's going to be our bump and roughness. Let's come over to our viewer again, grab the grass 2 mix, drop that over the top. Let's unhide both. Go over to main. And just resend that, make sure it's all good. So you see now we've got a lot of variation between all the different colors in the blade of grass. We've got some brown ones, some green ones, some yellow ones. Just as much variation as we could possibly get in there. So I'm going to take a quick break again, and then we're going to come back and we're going to plug all this into a scatter. So I've just reset the materials, so we're not looking at black in the viewport here. Just come over to grass 1 and just double click that, and then grass 2. Select the mix and double click that as well. There we go. Cool, so let's just name this grass. And we're going to drop in a landscape object. So let's go landscape. Right, this may be 4000 by 4000 by 300. So let's maybe display, change that to ground shading and lines. We can delete our floor now. Select landscape, we're not going to have borders at sea level. Let's just uncheck that. So we've got a nice kind of landscape to scatter across. So let's also drop in a scatter. I've got mine docked up here, but if not, you can just go objects and Octane scatter. Let's call this grass scatter. We're going to change the distribution to surface. For the surface, going to be the landscape object. And for the count, let's maybe do something like 20,000. And then let's drop the grass underneath that grass scatter. So now we've got that grass scattered across the whole landscape. So now we've got this working as a scatter, we can actually add a bit more variation into our materials. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take grass 2 out of the scatter and just turn it off. And then with grass 1 selected, go to our grass 1 materials down here. I'm just going to select the grass 1 diffuse. We're going to drop that over the top so we can focus on just the grass 1 diffuse first. So then with the diffuse selected, come up to the node editor again. What we're going to do, we're going to shuffle everything we've made here over a little bit, just to give us some room. Going to drop in a random color node. We're going to drop in a mix again, and we're going to drop in another color correct. Then I'm going to put this color correct into texture 2. The random color is going to go into the amount. And then everything we made here, so this mix, we're going to pipe that into texture 2. And we're also going to pipe that into this texture here. So a similar setup to what we were doing here, where this color correction goes into texture 1 and then it goes through a color correct into texture 2. So the same thing happening here. We're going to take the bump out, transmission out, and medium out, and we're going to put this mix text into the diffuse. So let's also drop a gradient in here between the random color and the amount. And let's just kind of shift these values around. Let's maybe drop the hue a bit, maybe up the gamma slightly, something like that. And then with this gradient, we can control how much of how much these two materials we get. You see, we get a little bit of brown coming in at the moment, but if we bring that, if we bring the black up, we're going to get more of our first material, which is just the green. And bring the black down, and then bring the white up. We're going to get more of our brown. So this is variation, giving us a variation across sort of each of the nodes that we're scattering. So let's kind of let's bring the white in a bit, and the black in a bit as well. Maybe something like that. I'm going to just up the hue a little bit, so it's not too different. Subtlety goes quite a way with this stuff. Cool. So that's that working. So we're going to grab all of this setup here, shuffle it over again. This mixed text, we're going to apply that into this color correction, which is going to go back into our bump. Also going to pipe that into the transmission down here. It's going to go into that transmission, and then we can just reconnect our medium. Cool. So then let's grab this whole setup here, these 4 nodes. I'm going to copy those over to our glossy, shuffle everything over to give us some more room again, paste them in, and then we can take this mix texture into that texture slot. Can also pipe that into texture 1, and then this is going to go into our diffuse. We're also going to pipe it down here into what is our bump and roughness. Just tidy this up a bit. Cool, so we've got the grass 1 mix done. So select that, I'm going to drop that back over grass 1. So we're going to take grass 1 out of the scatter. I'm going to put grass 2 back in and turn it back on. I need to resend that. So then once again, we're going to select grass 2, come over to our grass 2 textures down here. We select diffuse first, drop that over. And then we can grab everything we made from the grass 1 diffuse. So these 4 nodes here, let's make sure we copy those. Go over to grass 2, select the grass 2 diffuse, paste them in. Now we're actually going to delete this color correct. We're going to do it again from scratch, but we've got these 3 nodes now. So then with this mix texture, it's going to go into texture 1, and then color correct again. Let's put that into texture 2. This mix into the texture slot, and I'm going to pipe that into the diffuse. Just uncheck the bump, transmission, and the medium for now. And then in the random color, let's just up the seed so we get a different value, maybe to 2, that's fine. And then with a gradient, let's kind of push this white up so we can see our second texture, the second color corrector we've got here more. And let's maybe shift it over. Let's up the gamma, make it a little bit darker, and then bring the saturation down. Let's maybe something like that. Let's maybe a little bit purple. Don't really want purple grass. So let's store that render buffer. Come up to our gradient. We're going to push the black all the way over. So that's a variation we're getting between each grass now. We've kind of got one that's a little more brown, and we've got one that's kind of a browny green, so that's good. Let's turn the enable AB off. And then again, we can just control the mix with this gradient node. So let's bring the black knot over. Bring the white one up. Do something like that, and that's a good amount of variation. So again, we can take all this information, just select it all, slide all those nodes over, and we can take this mix, put that into what is going to be our bump, so into that. Also put it into the transmission. It's going to go in that, and we can just reconnect our medium again. Cool, so then let's select all these 4, copy those, go over to the glossy, going to paste them in, and then that's going to go into the diffuse. Set the mix text, going to come over to our bump and roughness as well, and then let's slide all this over. You can put that into texture 1, let's put it into texture 2. Now we can grab this mix texture, put it over the top of the grass. We can grab grass 1, drop it back under it. Then we might need to resend it. So there you go. Now we've got literally as much variation as we can possibly get. We've got different nodes that are slightly different colors. In those different nodes, we've got grass blades that are slightly different colors as well. So I'm going to take a quick break again, and then we're going to come back and we're going to set up our final shot. So before we set up the cameras, let's add a bit more variation in terms of sort of rotation and position of this grass. So I'm going to come up to the grass scatter, go to distribution, and then go to scale. In the scale, we're going to shader slot, we're going to drop in a noise. In the noise, we're going to change it to blistered turbulence. Go out of scale to maybe 300. And then with our low clip and high clip, we can kind of dictate how much grass we get. Just maybe up the low clip slightly, 28, lowest 43, and maybe the brightness down. Yes, maybe something like that. That looks good. And then we're going to drop her in a random effector as well. Let's go to sort of MoGraph effector and then random. I'm going to drop that into the effectors tab. It's going to push our grass everywhere. By default, we don't really want to affect the position too much. Let's just maybe have 2 and 2 and 2 in there. We can affect the scale slightly. Let's make it an absolute value. Do 0.6. Not a bit much, 0.3. And then rotation as well. So 360 in there, maybe 25. And 25. Cool, so now we randomize the position, rotation, and the scale. So let's try and find a good angle on this. Maybe somewhere down here. This is pretty much what I had for my post. Something like that. So drop in an Octane camera. Look through the camera. We're gonna take autofocus off. Let's do the aperture at something like 1 centimeter, and then let's check our focus, and let's focus in somewhere here. So that maybe up a bit, maybe 1.5. And we put 2 aspect ratio, 2 aperture edge, and then 3 for the side count. Maybe a little much depth of field, maybe just lower it down to 1. And the camera imager, let's go ahead and enable that. For the response, I think I'll use something like maybe Agava color, HTC 200 plus CD. I'm going to bring up the white point and make it slightly blue to put a bit more orange in the image. Something like that. And then post-processing. Before we're going to go into this, we're going to drop in a HDRI. So let's just bring this up. And we're going to go objects. Make sure it's resent. There we go. Objects. HDRI environment. I'll just use HDRI link from Grayscale Gorilla. And we're going to grab the texture, drop that onto the link. And our daylight. Let's make sure we've got mixed sky texture selected down here. And then going to launch browser. I'm going to grab something from the Paradise. Let's do Rio-based sunrise. And let's go and rotate that around. And rotate it down. So you find it's a little bit bright now. So instead of adjusting it in here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to HDRI link and then advance. I'm just going to copy this path. So Control C to copy that. And then I'm going to select in the texture field here, I'm going to go C4D Octane. And then color correction. In the color correction in here, I'm just going to go C4D Octane. And then image texture. Wherever it's gone. And in there, I'm going to paste the path. There we go. So in here, we can control the power of it. There, just the power of that image. And then if we go UV transform, and then drop that down. I didn't mean to select a keyframe there. Delete that. And our transform, X and Y, that's where we can rotate this HDRI around. So let's tilt it down so we just get some sky. Something like that. We can even scale it up a bit. go back up slightly. Yeah, something like that. So let's jump back out, and then let's go back up here. And we're in the color correction now, So we can change the hue. So we can go like a crazy pink sky if you want that, or you can create a green or yellow one. But I'm just going to adjust it slightly, make it a little bit lighter blue. You can bring the saturation down a bit. You can bring the gamma down or up. Do something like that. And let's just create a quick ground material here. I'm just gonna create an Octane diffuse. Go over to all and then select that. I'm just gonna create like a brownish color. Something like that. Let's just drop that on our landscape. So there we go. That's pretty much it now. It's other than that, it's sort of just a case of kind of flying around and trying to find a nice angle where where your HDRI kind of picks up all these highlights on the grass. I'm just going to change these render settings real quick. It's getting a bit noisy. Kind of settings here. We can lower this down to 22,000 will be fine. 8 in there, GI clamp 1. Let's just put adaptive sampling can also be on. I should clean that up a bit. It's probably a little bit saturated, so let's bring this down a bit. So yeah, that's basically it for the grass. Now I'm going to do a little quick bit at the end. We're going to just dig into some Quixel materials and stuff and show you how to put those on some leaves, and then that'll be it. Right, so I've got Quixel Megascans open here. And all I've done is search for plant perennials. I think that's how you say that. And then if you scroll down, you'll find sort of things like this, which is quite good. Basically, what we're going to do, we're going to extract one of these leaves out, and then we're going to use all those textures to texture like one of the forester plants. So a good kind of rule with this is most of these textures are 4K, like from sort of like here to here. So you want to try and find a texture that has got at least 1K, like each leaf is 1K. So you see, if we divide this in half, this is going to be 2K across. If we divide that in half again, that's going to be 1K. And most of the forester textures are 1K as well. So we'll have enough resolution to do that. I mean, if you're trying to do it with something like these leaves down here, they're probably not got enough resolution in them. So, try and pick something out that's it's got like a few leaves but bigger, basically. So I've downloaded this one here, just this rubber plant leaves. I'm going to open Photoshop. Next thing we're going to do, so I close all this out. We're going to go to File, Scripts, and then we're going to run Load Files into Stack. And it's going to click Browse. And then I'm going to go back, find the texture I got. So this is plant perennials here. So all we're going to do, we're going to load in our albedo, which is essentially a diffuse. We're going to load in the AO, the bump. We don't need the cavity, don't really need the displacement either. Don't need the gloss, we're going to load in the normal. We don't need the opacity either. We're going to load in the roughness, spec, and translucency. So let's go ahead and load all those in. Click OK, and then click OK again. It's just going to run through and it's going to load all these layers, all those files into the layer stack, keeping their layer name. Actually, we do need the opacity. Sorry, that's my fault. So I'm just going to come and drag the opacity in. Bear with me 2 seconds. There you go, there's the opacity. We'll need that as well. Just going to rasterize that quick. So what we're going to do, if we open up the preview, we just basically just pick a leaf. I think I'm going to go for this one here in the bottom left. I think it's quite nice. It's got quite a bit of it's kind of a nice shape and sort of coloration to it. So all I'm going to do in the channels over here, I'm going to control click RGB. And that's going to select all the white. So I'm just going to minus out everything that's not that bottom left leaf. Let's get rid of all this, get rid of all this. sure I get rid of all this here, and all this. Great, so now I've only got this bottom leaf selected. Next, I'm going to run a Photoshop action, which I'm going to make available in the description. All this action is going to do, it's going to take your selection, it's going to make a layer mask of everything. It's then going to ask you to export all these layers to files, and then it's going to run another script, which I'm going to also include in the description, which will delete all those layer masks as well, so you can start again. So you can kind of quickly process all these leaves out into separate files. So I'm going to run that now. Let's click play. It doesn't matter. There we go. I'm going to click browse, and then just select where you want these exported to. I'm going to call this sort of just plant leaf 1. And that. And then for your file name prefix, just do that the same. Call this plant leaf 1. And click run. Cool, so that's successful. Now it's going to delete all those layers, then you're back to where you began again. So you can do this with another leaf as well if you want. But I'm just going to take that one. I'm going to jump back into Cinema 4D. I'm going to create a new file. In each file, I'm going to drop in a multifloor. Just going to drop in a floor as well, and a daylight. Send that to Octane. Let's rotate this daylight up. And then for the multifloor, I'm just going to drop in a leaf grass, I think, from the library. There we go, so now that. Let's zoom in here. Oop, let's not move the floor. Cool. So next, let's go ahead and build our materials. Let's remove all the unused ones first. Let's create a new diffuse. I'm going to call this plant leaf 1 diffuse. Or just plant leaf 1 will be fine. Click that, go to the node editor. And then just browse to where your files are output. So here. And then just grab all these files, you can just drag and drop. And it's just a case of plugging them in. I like to multiply the albedo by the AO just to get a bit more shadow. So to do that, we're just going to drop in a multiply. AO on top, albedo at the bottom, and then plug that into the diffuse. And I just need to plug all these in so the bump goes into the bump. And we can put in a quick multiply in there and a float, just if we want to control that. I'm going to do it now, but it's just the controls there now. With a normal, we can just put the normal into there. The opacity, we're not actually going to use that. We're going to grab this texture here. Going to plug that into the opacity. And we're going to change its type from normal to alpha. And then the roughness is going to go into the roughness up here. Collapse that down, we don't see it. This over, like that. And again, we can put in a multiply control. And drop in a float. Just if we need control over that, let's just leave that at 1. Make sure this one's at 1 as well. Translucency, we're going to plug into the transmission. Now, our last one is our specular, which we don't actually need. So just delete that. So there you go, that's all those plugged in. So now let's go ahead and drop that over the leaf. So we've got our leaf material here. This one's the stem. So let's grab the leaf, grab this plant, and drop that over the top. Now you see we've got something strange happening now. What it is the leaves by default are being tapered to a point, which is kind of distorting our material. So we want to go ahead and change that. So to do that, we just set leaf grass over here to leaves. We come down to his leaf profile here. We just grab this last point, flatten it out, and bring it up to the top. So you see now we've got the full leaf material working across the that whole width of the leaf. And again, if you want to sort of change that, if it's still looking a bit distorted, then we have leaf controls here. We can just bring the length down. Maybe that looks a little bit better. or maybe a little bit wider. Let's try 3.5. Let's try 18 in there. Cool, great. So let's go and make our leaf glossy to mix that in. Just make sure Octane is running. There we go. We're on path tracing. Yeah, cool. So then duplicate that out. We can actually remove our unused materials now. So there we go. And then duplicate that out. We're going to call this plant 1 glossy. And then just select it. Go to the node editor. And select the object. The node, sorry, the last node material. Change that to glossy. We don't need that. And that's pretty much it. So let's drop the glossy on, see what we've got so far. So maybe we need a little bit less bump. And a little bit less roughness. So there you go, we get a nice highlight across there now. Just maybe up those values slightly. Let's try 0.5. That's a bit much, maybe 0.25. And then the bump again, that's 2.5. Let's try make it rougher at 0.75. 0.6. It's just kind of playing around at this point, really. There's not a value to put in, it's whatever you feel like is right. There we go, that's looking great. So let's create a mix with plant leaf mix. And the mixed materials, we can just grab in the diffuse and the glossy. And let's drop that over the top. So here's going to drop in our render settings here. Go to Octane render passes, go enable those. Do transmission and SS. Now you can see we're getting a nice select transmission. If it'll let me, uncheck focus, there we go. So we're getting a nice transmission from that translucency map. You can see when we kind of backlight it, we get a nice glow here under the leaf. And then we can also add scattering and everything that I've been through with the grass to this. But yeah, it's just a quick tip on using the quick store materials with the raster objects. You can do this with grass, like tree leaves, anything you want, basically. So yeah, that kind of wraps everything up. If you do have any questions, just drop those in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. I'm going to put my Instagram as well below, so feel free to message me on there if you're stuck with anything as well. I'll see if I can help out, and I hope you learnt something. And yeah, I'll see you next time.